President Biden is getting proactive about the federal response to natural disasters. Peter Ducey has the latest.
Severe weather can impact cities big and small, communities far and wide. Just look at the Chicago area. This is what remains of one neighborhood after an EF3 tornado swept through the area over the weekend.
The insurance company already said that it's not livable.
In the south, Tropical Storm Claudette caused widespread devastation. The storm is blamed for 14 deaths. In Alabama, investigators are examining if the storm contributed to a horrific multi-car accident that left 10 people dead, including 9 children. Being prepared for extreme weather events, including tornadoes, snowstorms, flooding, and hurricanes, can save lives. That likely prompting President Biden to meet with the heads of FEMA and Homeland Security on Tuesday to discuss hurricane preparedness.
We're going to bring every resource to bear to be prepared, respond, and to help people recover. But it's a big job.
President Biden also addressed the federal response to western wildfires. The 2021 season predicted to be especially active with intense heat waves and worsening drought conditions. The president says he will meet with western governors next week to discuss those dangerous conditions.
The drought in the west is just astounding. You take a look at it. Fires have already started, flooding, so we're in for a tough season.
Last month, the president announced he's doubling emergency funding to help communities prepare for extreme weather events, adding up to $1 billion. For perspective, there were 22 natural disasters in 2020 that cost more than $1 billion each, with a cumulative price tag of nearly $100 billion. Hurricane season officially started on June 1st, and it runs all the way through November 30th. This is expected to be a busier season than usual, with a predicted 13 to 20 named storms. At the White House, Peter Ducey, Fox News.